invented these rules that like, if you're not having fun, it's not right. If you're not feeling this specific way in this specific amount of time, then you're on the wrong track. As if the human experience is just like one singular thing that is the same for everyone. Like, we are all unique individuals. We know that two people can experience the same event, even at the same time. And because they are different people, they're going to react to it differently. They're going to process it differently. So the fact that like anybody would ever be out here trying to say there is a rubric by which you must determine XYZ when you have not created that rubric specifically for that person is crazy to me.
Smile.
But I'm not happy.
People
Why are you staring? I don't want to do this.
You have to. They'll know
no one cares about your life.
Why is that bad?
Nobody cares. They won't understand.
I want to go home. You'll hurt their feelings.
This is ridiculous.
What are you even talking about? Just want to keep them happy. What if they think you're stupid? Just keep them happy. Just keep them happy. Just lie.
I'm not here to sugarcoat. Life's already a bumpy road. Too much shelter causes pain. Let's just be real honest. Things are gonna knock you down. Avoidance will not help you out. Let's talk it through here, me and you. Let's keep it real honest.
Hi, you're listening to Real Honest, the podcast where I share candid thoughts and feelings about life, love, and relationships, God and church, adulting, the workplace, and everything in between. However you found me, I hope you feel seen, learn something, shift your perspective, and walk away empowered to live honestly. It has been about a month since I put out an episode because there's been a lot going on. So if you're a regular listener, I do have some updates. If you're new here, I usually like to start with a goals check-in. It's just something that helps me personally. It gives me like a regular cadence of evaluating how am I working toward my goals? Am I making progress? And if not, is there something that I can shift to make sure that I start making progress? So one of the things that I have learned over years of doing this is that because I'm a perfectionist, I tend to set unrealistic goals. And part of that is I tend to set too many when I really don't have the time to dedicate to them. So I have pulled back to just focus on one goal for 2026, which is completing my novel. I did finish the draft in Q1, so I am currently in the middle of drafting the second draft. I have finished, the book is in 3 acts. I have finished draft 2 of act 1, and I'm currently working on draft 2 of act 2. My beta readers are dwindling. I had like 10 or 11 people that were reading my book, and I started to do like monthly meetings with them just to see like how are you liking it? Do you have feedback? Like checking in. And only 3 of the people actually finished the entire first draft. So they're the only 3 that I'm sharing the second draft with, which is okay. At least it's people that are like responding to me quickly and like being helpful. So that's been nice. And then I am heavy into the research of what is it like publishing your first novel. Like I'm following a lot of first-time authors that were published in the last few years. Like they post a lot of stuff on social media about like what they wish they had known before they published, like how to choose an agent, whether is it better to like cold email people or to like go to writers conferences and pitch in person, like that kind of stuff, how to work with an editor, how to select an editor. I really want to make sure that I have a clear picture in my mind of what I want going into that process to make it smoother. What's been really cool is like not even one of my main goals, but kind of a side project this year is my fitness journey. And I have lost 10 pounds in the last 2 months. I'm super proud of that. I'm really, really excited. And honestly, the only thing that I have changed is started to count my calories. And I like, just for anyone that like is new here or like doesn't know me personally, my fitness journey has been like a very long thing. Like I started it 6 or 7 years ago, and I first was just very focused on fitness. And I want to say even before that, I did 6 months to a year of just tracking, where I was just looking at, not making any changes. How many steps do I generally get in a day? And because I work from home and I sit all day, I started out averaging 2,000 steps a day without trying to get any more, without doing any type of exercise. And so I initially set my goal at 4,000, and then I raised it to 5, 6, 8, and then 10. And that whole process took me about 2 years to get to a point where I could get 10,000 steps on a regular basis. Nothing happened with my weight in those 2 years. Like I just was being more active. And then I also added in a bunch of different types of workouts. I did a lot of work with Peloton, just trying to figure out, what do I like? Like, is it walking? Is it running? Is it rowing? Is it cycling? And just trying out all those things over a long period of time to figure out, what do I enjoy that I will do consistently. And then there were a couple years where I was strictly focused on food, where I said, like, okay, I'm not a particularly unhealthy eater. Like, I'm not usually the type of person to like sit and eat a whole bag of candy. A pint of ice cream will be in my freezer for months because I usually just want like 2 spoonfuls of ice cream and then I put it back. So I was like, I don't feel like I'm eating super unhealthy, so why is my weight not changing? And so I started to just make small tweaks here and there, where like one was just like less coffee creamer, and another was like learning to like actually count out the serving size of whatever the snack is that I'm having. But I stopped tracking my food while I was doing that because it was making me really, really sad and anxious. And I just felt like I was getting obsessive about food, and I was getting upset anytime that I would go out to eat and really frustrated. And I was like, I don't want to do this. So I stopped doing that. And then I kind of was just like, I gave up on wanting to lose weight. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to just eat as well as I can. And I'm going to be as active as I can and try to just be strong and live my life. And then a few months ago, I went to visit my best friend, and like he's on a very serious like fitness regimen. And I just admire him so much, just the discipline. And I was like, I don't want to be on that level. I know that I don't have his level of discipline. I do not. There are too many days that I'm just tired and I'm gonna choose the couch. However, I did like just living with him for a few days. I was like, there are aspects of this that I could pick up that would help me. And one of the things was tracking food. I was like, I feel like when I tried to track my food a few years ago, I didn't yet have a healthy relationship with why I was doing it. And so now I started to do it in a, let's just see if I can actually make the calorie deficit work for me. And I pretty quickly found out that I was just eating too much. And so in the last 2 months, literally only 2 months, that all I've been doing is counting my calories and making sure that it stays in a deficit. And the major 2 things that have changed is I lost 10 pounds, and I have not had any issues with bloating, which was a huge issue. I felt bloated all the time for like the last 5 years and like couldn't figure out what was causing it. So in case that's helpful for anyone, hope that's a nice takeaway. But what I thought was interesting was like when fitness or weight loss or eating more healthy was one of my like top goals for the year, it never like worked for me in a way that I felt like was helpful. And what I find interesting is that this year that I'm so focused on my book and everything else is secondary, usually it's like when I get my steps now, it's kind of like I'm not getting steps to try to lose weight or specifically to be more active. It's like I need to think about my book. Let me just do that moving. And I feel like they're like, even when I'm eating, it's more like, okay, I want to make sure that my meal is going to take me 40 minutes to make and eat as opposed to an hour or an hour and a half, because I want to get back to working on my book. And that's also just helped me consume less calories. And so it's just been something that I'm like, it actually has worked to like choose one thing to focus on, but while still getting other things done. And then another update for you guys is just that I am back on the 2-job life. So that's part of why I haven't put out an episode in a month. I was trying to figure out if I was even going to be able to continue this podcast while working 2 jobs. They are both remote and make my own schedule, but I just want to make sure that I am not getting overwhelmed and overloaded. And I also want to make sure that I have something to say, and I don't feel like I've really had anything that I wanted to talk about in the last month. But I do today. And typically I would have a what I'm learning from God right now segment, but to be in the spirit of being real honest, I don't have a clear lesson from God right now, because in the past month I have not been in my Bible. I've been missing church a lot. There just has been a lot going on. I was doing a lot of traveling. I was getting settled into the rhythm of working 2 jobs. I've had a lot of friends that I've been talking to and trying to work stuff out with. And I also just have not been feeling 100%. I have low iron again, which is just sucking the energy out of me until I get my infusion in a couple weeks. So candidly, I have not been talking to God, which is probably why I can't tell you that I've learned anything from him in this season. But I want to talk about indifference today, and I'm trying to process through, Is indifference a bad thing? I feel like really up until very, very recently, I would answer yes, indifference is bad because I like feelings. I want to be happy or sad or angry. Like, I am a very emotional person. Lots of people would say I'm very dramatic, and I typically see the lack of feeling as the end of the world. Most of my life, I have felt like if I feel nothing, that's worse than feeling bad. Like, I would rather be sobbing in the depths of my depression because that means I'm alive. And if I feel nothing, then I may as well be dead. I don't totally know where this feeling, idea, or belief came from. Like, I can't pinpoint a time where I ever remember somebody telling me that indifference is bad or that I have to feel really deeply all the time. But so to try to figure this out today in this moment, I want to start with just the pure dictionary definition. Okay, so what is indifference? Indifference is the lack of interest, concern, sympathy, or emotion towards someone or something. It represents a state of being neutral, unconcerned, or emotionally detached, often characterized by a don't care attitude. It can also refer to the unimportance of a matter. Reading through this definition, I don't feel like indifference is automatically good or bad. I feel like it's more a description of something. It's a description of a feeling or lack thereof, more specifically. And I think what would make it good or bad is more has to do with the thing or the person or the activity that you are indifferent about. When I think about work, for example, like the jobs that I am paid to do, there are aspects of the work that I would say I enjoy. There are aspects of the work that I definitely don't enjoy. I would not use love or hate to describe any aspects of the work. Like, I don't think I dislike any of it enough to say I hate it, and I definitely don't enjoy any of it enough to say I love it. But there are aspects that I'm like, yeah, this is fine, or like, don't love that. There are also aspects of the work that I'm totally indifferent to, where I'm like, I have no problem doing this and getting paid for it. It does not bother me. It does not cause me pain or distress. It does not give me any happiness, joy, or excitement. I'm just straight indifferent. And in that sense, I don't think that's a bad thing. When it comes to people, I feel like feeling indifferent about a person, people are more likely to feel good or bad about it. Like, if I were to say that I am indifferent about my best friend as opposed to love him, I feel like that would probably feel insulting to him. I guess I don't totally know. I'd have to ask him. I imagine, like, if people were to ask people that I consider my close friends and they said, how do you feel about Samantha? And they shrugged and were like, I'm indifferent. She's fine. Like, I think I would feel insulted and I would feel like that's bad. But if it's a stranger walking down the street, I feel like I expect to feel indifference toward them. Like, I can't feel necessarily like affectionate towards somebody that I don't know, and I also don't want to feel any negativity or hatred towards somebody that I don't know. And so in that case, it's all about the context. Like, I have a neighbor on one side of me that I have had a handful of interactions with. I think she's perfect, been perfectly pleasant to me all those times, but I don't know that I don't have enough data. I don't have enough experience or interactions with her to definitively say that I think she's a good or kind person. So I mostly am indifferent to her in terms of, I wouldn't say that I'm particularly interested in this neighbor or concerned about her or have any emotion toward her at all. There was a time where somebody backed into our mailboxes, and our mailboxes, like 4 of them are like conjoined together, and she was out like fixing hers, and she had this tool that I don't have, and I was like, hey, could I borrow that when you're done to fix mine? And she was like, oh, I'll just fix it for you. And that like changed the indifference to more of a positive, like, I like her, I'm endeared to her. Like, that was a really kind thing that she did for me that she didn't have to. back when I was living in an apartment, I had an upstairs neighbor that was constantly making noise. And anytime that I would complain about it, like their reaction was never like sympathetic. It was always just like, I live here too. I do what I want. And so I felt more on the negative toward them, where I was like, I dislike this person because all of the interactions that I've had with them have been bad. But so I feel like typically you would start out indifferent with anyone, and then as you get to know them and you have positive or negative experiences, you start to swing one way or the other, and that always has the ability to change. So part of why I wanted to dig into this today is because I am in a new relationship and I feel largely indifferent to it. Like I'm not totally like, oh my gosh, this is the best ever. Like I'm so excited to be in a relationship after not having been in one for so long. But I also don't feel like this is terrible. This is distressing me. I need to get out of it. I really just feel like I'm chill. And I've been doing a lot of research about the psychology of people who have experienced like a lot of trauma or chaos in life. So like most of my past relationships have had a lot of chaos in them. Like either they were situationships that I never even fully got to call a relationship, or it was a relationship with a pathological liar for like years, and that just like does a lot to the psyche. And so the research that I've been doing is like therapists and experts say that when you feel butterflies, that is actually the nervous system pointing out emotional unavailability and telling you to run. It's not, this is exciting, come closer. But for people like me who have experienced that a lot, that is what I know love feels like. And so it's been really interesting to be in a new relationship with somebody and just talking through things like, how did you know in the past that you were in love? And for me, I always knew in the past that I was in love because of a very intense fear that I felt. Like truly, anytime that I've been in love with a man, I have had frequent nightmares of him dying. I felt like I constantly had to prove that I was going to stick around and prove that I wanted him to stick around, to the point where like anytime they would call me, I would drop what I was doing and pick up the phone because I was so scared, like this person is never going to talk to me again. Like if I don't do everything that they want and everything that they ask for, then they're going to forget about me and they're going to leave me. And like, spoiler, you do everything that they want and everything that they ask for and they still leave you. I'm really trying to redefine love at this stage in my life, like in my 30s, because I'm like, it's just not as intense, I don't think, as it was when I was younger. Or it's possible that like I just am not feeling it yet in this particular relationship. But then I look at like, okay, but there are lots of people that I love in my life, and it you know, there are tons of different kinds of love. There's romantic love, there's familial love, there's friend love. And it's just kind of, it shows up differently at this point in my life than it did like in my 20s and teens. Taylor Swift always talks about in her songwriting interviews about how she feels like there is an intensity to emotions that you feel when you're a teenager, where you notice every little detail. And she feels like this is a very unique experience to like that life stage. And she really loves it and finds it fascinating. And so as she gets older and continues to write songs, she's always trying to capture that teenage expression, that feeling, that intensity that like teenagers have. And I think that is accurate to a point, but I think it's less about the adolescent life stage, and I think it's more about the first time that you feel something. And I think that most people feel like love, for example, for the first time when they are teenagers. And when you've never experienced something before, I think it tends to be more intense because it's new, it's uncharted territory. And I think it comes with either like a wonder of like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, or it comes with an anxiety of like, this is not awesome, or a mix of the two. And so I think about all of the times that I have fallen in love, from like the very first time when I was 13 to like the most recent time when I was in my, I don't know, mid to late 20s, I think. And it was always very, very intense. And like, that's how I knew what it was, because it was so intense and I couldn't sleep and I was up at night and like writing songs and like writing journal entries, and just like emotion was just like constantly pouring out of me, and like it was overwhelming. And you guys, like when I tell you, I have recently gone back and read through my journals, and like, my God, young Samantha was just suffering. Like, it was not love, it was pain. It like drama and anxiety to like a detrimental point. And I'm like, I really don't want that. That is not something that I am interested in experiencing again at this stage in my life. My current relationship so far has been very drama free. Like, there has been no anxiety. We don't talk every day. We don't see each other every week. And I am just like totally chill with that. I'm just like, if he calls and I'm busy, I don't freak out that I need to drop what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm going to finish what I'm doing and like answer the phone when I can answer the phone. If I call him and he doesn't answer, I'm not sitting there writing stories wondering like, did he die? Does he hate me? Did he change his mind? Like, my brain is literally just like, he's busy, he'll call me back when he can, and I move on with my day. And I think that this is really healthy, and I love that. But at the same time, I'm doing this research and I'm hearing psychologists say, like, for people that are used to the drama and the chaos, your first healthy relationship feels boring because you're used to that drama. And especially if you are like me, and that drama is what tells you you're in love, and that drama gives you like a reason to live and to not sleep at night and to get up super early in the morning, and just your whole life revolves around that person and the feeling and the dopamine hit of them texting you. Like, that's actually really unhealthy. But if that's what you believe love is and what love is supposed to feel like, then you often will like create drama in the healthy relationship because you feel like it's boring and you feel like that's not love. So it's been really interesting just sit with this dichotomy of like, what I feel feels pleasant and good, but it also feels wrong. And this is why at this point in my life, I am coming to the conclusion that indifference is not a bad thing. I think that indifference gives you space to evaluate and grow. I think when you have a really strong emotion, it's hard to evaluate the experience accurately. For example, I was going back through and like reading one of my old journals, and I had an entry where I described some time that I had spent with a man that I was in love with, and I only wrote about the positive things, and it was very like heart eyes, like I had the best time, he was my favorite, like blah blah blah. My next entry was from a few weeks later where like I wrote, wow, I'm glad I wrote down all of the positive things that happened during that time, because now I'm only able to think about the negative things, and I'm remembering the time as like, why was I seeing that guy? Like, he makes me anxious. And so it's so interesting that based on like the, you know, when I was stuck in the positive feeling, that was all that I focused on. And then later we probably had a fight when I was writing again, and then I was stuck in the negative feeling, and that was all I had focused on, to the point where I forgot the positive things and couldn't even recall them. And so I feel like when you are less extreme, or I should say when I am less extreme and I'm emotionally regulated in the middle, I have a stronger ability to recall both the positive and the negative things, and have a more accurate picture of what I actually feel on a consistent basis and what's actually happening. And yet I've had so many people in my life be like, you are clearly not excited. You clearly don't like this guy. You're clearly not into this. Break up with him. And I'm just like, if it was clear, I would have done it already, but I really don't feel like that's clear. And I even had somebody tell me recently, like, well, new relationships are supposed to be fun. Like, the first 6 to 18 months are supposed to be the honeymoon stage and you're supposed to be all over each other. And if that's not what you're feeling, then it's not right. And I was just like, who determines that? Is that a law? Is that a rule? I'm not in a PDA. I'm not like a physical person. Like, I've never been all over anybody that I've dated. Like, that's just not me. And I try to think about like what excites me in life these days, which is like, if I have a Disney vacation on the calendar, I'm very excited. Anytime that one of my favorite artists announces a new album, like, I'm very excited for Petal. Like, please, Ariana, save us, because all of the new albums so far that have come out this year, I have been like, it's fine. Haven't loved any of them. So I am praying that Ariana and Olivia are going to deliver for me. I get really excited about certain TV shows and movies and books, but I don't know, like, I can't say that there's been like a person that has made me like super, super excited of late. And so one of my friends was telling me, she's like, whenever you go visit your boyfriend, you're not like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see him. And like, I feel like that's how you should feel. And I was like, well, when I visit you, I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see you. Like, I just tell people, like, I'm going to visit my friend. Like, I'm gonna get on a plane and I'm gonna fly to her and I'm gonna see her, and like, yeah, I hope it's good, but like, we haven't seen each other in a really long time. Maybe, we've only been conversing on the phone. We don't spend in-person time often. So like, it might be weird. It might be awkward. We might have a different rapport. I don't know. But there are like exciting aspects of seeing people, and there are anxiety inducing aspects. And so I feel like overall, I'm just kind of like, I feel more indifferent to this, where I'm just like, I don't have a strong interest and attitude toward going, but I also don't have a strong interest or attitude to not. It's kind of like, for the other introverts out there, there's all those memes about how we love when somebody cancels plans because we don't want to get dressed and don't want to leave our house. And it's kind of like, whenever I get invited to something, I'm typically not excited about it. I'm typically like, I do want to leave my house. I do want to make friends. I will go, but I don't really want to. And if the event gets canceled and then I don't have to go, that would be better. But I'm just like, as long as it's on the calendar and I've committed to go, I'm down to go. I'm fine with it. I'm not excited about it. I don't hate that it's happening. It's just something that's happening that I'm going to do. And I feel like if you're living in that space I need to talk about me. If I'm living in that space indefinitely, then I think that it would be a problem. But I think that like, when it comes to a new relationship, a new friend, a new group, a new event, I think it would take time to get used to. And it's the repetition of like say you join a new book club, right? And maybe you're feeling totally indifferent because you don't know any of the people in it. It's like a 20-minute drive. You're kind of like, not ideal, but not terrible. And it's like all of those things you're going to learn as you go. Like, how do you feel about the drive? How are the other people in the group? Maybe you go to book club one time and the other people in the group are awesome and you immediately hit it off and you're like, yeah, this is my book club. But maybe those other people don't show up consistently. And maybe the next time you go to book club, it's a bunch of people that you totally don't get along with. And so I think in that situation, what you would look for is give yourself a time limit, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, of like, I'm going to try out this book club and I'm going to see over, if depending on how often it's meeting, but I'm assuming it's meeting once a month. I'm going to see over those 8 times that I go to book club, how am I feeling? Am I indifferent all 8 times? Am I feeling positively 5 times and negatively 3? Is it the opposite of that? And then that would help you decide, like, do I want to stay in this book club? And I'm really looking at this new relationship that way, where I'm just like, all right, we just met, like it's been a few months, we barely know each other. And especially with long distance, like you're spending less time physically together too. And so that it's going to take you longer than to get to know each other. And I am just looking at behavior patterns. Like I am looking at, over the course of this relationship thus far, like have I felt more positively more often, or have I felt more negatively more often? And I think it also depends on what you really are looking for, I think specifically, and how you want to feel. So even for the friend that said oh, you should be saying oh my gosh, I'm so excited to visit him. I'm like, maybe that's how you want to feel if you're visiting someone. Personally, I try not to get too excited about experiences with people because I don't like to be let down, and I try to go in with two things without expectations so that I can't be disappointed. And I think that's why I get so excited about books and TV shows, because I know that a show that is run by Shonda Rhimes, I know I'm gonna love. I have consistently loved every show that woman has ever been the showrunner of. And I know that I'm going to love a Taylor Swift album. I know it's going to be bangers and I'm going to dance and feel great. That's been consistent every time. I know that every time I go to Disneyland, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to eat a churro. I'm going to eat a pickle. I'm going to eat a corn dog. I'm going to ride Indiana Jones. I'm going to smile and run around like a child. That has been consistent every time. I feel like people don't have the ability to be consistent every time, because there's every time you converse with another human being, you're going to be carrying things that have happened to you that day, that week, that month. So is the other person. You both have emotions that you're going to be dealing with. Women have hormonal cycles that vastly changes from week to week what we're able to do that day, week, month. Even my very best friends that I have known for years, that I pretty consistently can rely on to make me laugh and give sound advice and make me feel seen, they still miss the mark sometimes. And I still miss the mark for them, because there are days that I call and need them and they're not totally present because something else is going on. Or there are days when they call me and they need me and I'm not totally present because something else is going on. And one of them always calls me out on it and is like, I hear that you're distracted and you're not listening to me, which is fine. You don't have to listen to me right now, but why did you answer the phone? And I'm like, so sorry, touche. So shifting into the hard conversation of the week is I have been attempting to discuss all of this with my boyfriend, and I feel like he and I are we communicate so differently. We're so different emotionally that I really feel like it's not landing. And there's a constant, I think, question in my mind of does this mean that this cannot be done, or does this mean that just time needs to go by for this thing to be learned? So I feel like I'm trying to express myself by saying I'm feeling neutral. I'm feeling emotionally detached. And you're telling me you're not feeling that way. You're feeling emotionally connected. So can you tell me specifically what makes you feel connected? And so what I've learned is for him, it is physical time. So since we have visited each other, we've gone on a trip together, that made him feel really connected because we were physically in the same space when we're usually not. And for me, I was like, okay, that's really important for me to know. That's great for me to know, because I actually do not operate that way. Physically being in the same room together in itself does not do anything for me emotionally. I need us to have a conversation in which I feel seen and heard by you. And I feel like that is not happening as consistently. I feel like we've consistently been spending physical time together where maybe we're laying on the couch and watching a movie, or we're going out to eat and we're having more surface level conversations because we don't see each other as often. So it's more here's what's been going on in my world, here's what's been going on in yours. I'll tell you about work, you'll tell me about your family, whatever. But I'm like, as far as like a deeper conversation where I feel like I'm really getting to know you, I don't feel like that has been happening. And I'm okay with that. You know, like it hasn't, there's still time for it to happen. I don't think we need to orchestrate it. Like I'm more of just trying to do like a check-in and like let you know where I am and ask where you are. And I feel like this all gets internalized by him, and he's very like, okay, I'm not doing enough. I'm not enough. Like, this isn't working for you. You're upset. And part of what I'm trying to learn in this process is something I learned from Jay Shetty's podcast On Purpose with Jay Shetty, which is my absolute favorite that I listen to every week because I learned so much from him and his guests. But he had a guest recently who said, people don't hear words, they hear tone. And so even though I'm trying to express like in words how I am feeling, at the end of the day, I think that he is looking for me in this new relationship to be more lovey-dovey because that's how he feels, because he feels more emotionally connected than I do. And so he's wanting my tone to be like, oh, I just adore you. Like, I like you so much. You're my favorite. And not necessarily saying those words, but more like with my tone, where my tone is matching my words and saying like, I'm not really moving in that direction. Like I need some things to happen in order for me to get there. Like, can we talk about how we might push into that direction? And a lot of times when we're having these conversations, I feel like we're spinning in circles, and like then I feel like I'm not being heard, or like if I say like 5 different things and he repeats back to me what he heard from, like, you know, maybe I talk for 5 minutes and then I'm like, okay, can you what's your takeaway from what I just said? And out of the 5 minutes of me talking, he will take away like 5 words that are super negative. And I'm like, that was not the point. And then I get really upset. And then like, I'm like getting emotional, and I'm either emotional, like angry because I feel like I've wasted my time trying to explain this, or I'm emotional, like sad because I'm like, it really hurts me that like I'm going into overdrive to explain this thing to you and you're not getting it. But what that actually does psychologically, and the research that I have done is what that actually does is it makes me even harder for him to hear, because again, people don't hear words, they hear tone. So if in the conversation I'm getting frustrated and upset and I either start crying or I start yelling, or I'm just like, why don't you get this? Like, you know, he feels that tone and is like, and feels and internalizes that as like, this is negative. You feel really negatively about me. Where like for me, the tone really has nothing to do with like how I feel about the person I'm talking to. Like this has happened to me a lot with like family members and other friends where like I just so desperately want to be understood that when the responses that I'm getting from somebody make me feel like I'm not understood, it's like the end of the world to me. It like destroys me. And I just like, this has happened at my family Thanksgivings pretty often, because a lot of my family are similar to my boyfriend, and the fact that like physically being together makes them happy. It makes them feel connected. Like my parents are just happy that all their kids are physically under one roof and they can see all of us, and like they feel totally connected by the fact that we are all physically around the same table. But I, on the other hand, don't feel connected unless during the meal where we're all around the table, we learn and we grow together. Like we show like deep interest in each other's lives. And typically my family does not do that. Like the Thanksgiving dinner conversation tends to be about how was your flight? How was your drive? Like we talk about people's travel in, you know, how are the kids? Just give us status updates of like, how old is everyone? What school is so-and-so going to? And like that goes on the entire meal. And for me, this is very frustrating and distressing because I'm like, we're family. Like, we should love each other. Like, why don't we love each other? And of course, my family's looking at me like I have 10 heads because they're like, we do love each other. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, why don't we ever go deeper? Like, why can't we talk about like how people are feeling and like what are people's dreams and goals? And like, because that's what I care about, but it's not necessarily what anybody else does. And I have learned in therapy how to articulate this to my family today. But in the past, when I didn't know how to name it and articulate it, I would just get fed up with the small talk, and I would just get overwhelmingly saddened by it and would just start crying. And my family is like, oh my gosh, you hate us. Like, every time we're all together, you were in distress, you're crying, you're running out of the room. Like, and they were receiving all of that as like, I strongly dislike them and I never want to be around them. And I think they're terrible people. And I was like, no, actually what it was that I care about you so much and I want to know you and I want you to know me, and I find it distressing that that's not happening. Another hard conversation that I've had recently was with my parents and my sister. Like, my parents and I were arguing about something, and my sister was kind of she just happened to be there. So she ended up being the mediator, which actually was really, really helpful to have her there in that role, because I have been like begging my parents to go to therapy for so long. And I've just been saying, like, here are all of the things that I am learning after 8 years in therapy. Like, here's what I have learned about how to communicate and how to see a person. And I just think it would be so helpful and life-changing for our relationships if you guys would consider trying to learn some of this for yourself so that you can understand what it is that I am talking about. But so, of course, like, we started, like, I would say something and my dad would repeat back what he heard, which was not at all what I was trying to say. And so then I would say it again louder, and then he would say his thing again louder. And then I eventually like started crying because I just was feeling so like overwhelmed by like, oh my God, I feel like I'm speaking French. Like, why is this not making sense? But what I will say is what was so lovely is, I think it was actually like maybe a month later that like my dad wrote me a note to say like, hey, I've been thinking about that conversation we've had and here are my thoughts. And in the past, I would have been super bothered by that. Like, hello, this conversation lasted a month ago. Like, what do you mean you're sending me your thoughts? Like, this is crazy. Why are you bringing this back up? But in the present, I understand that like, I have now been working on how to express my emotions, how to ask for what I need, how to ask other people for what they need, and how to identify what is going on in my heart and mind at any given moment. I've been working on this intensely for 8 years. And this is something that is brand new to my dad that he has not spent all of these years working on. So where I'm able to like do a lot of the processing live in the conversation, my dad can't. Like he physically like is overwhelmed by the emotion that's happening in the moment, and he needs to pause and walk away from the conversation and think about it. And he needed to think about it for a month, and that's totally okay. And I actually thought it was like very, very sweet and totally heartwarming that like he thought about it as long as he needed to. He put his thoughts into words and he like sent them to me so that I could read and reflect on them and know like what was going on in his heart and mind. And I'm now able to see this as like, this is such huge growth for the two of us in our relationship. And of course, I would love for us to have been able to have the whole conversation like at one time. But I think that eventually we will get there. Like if he continues to like, when we have these heated discussions, if he continues to take his time and process it and let me know like what he thinks and how he feels, and then I continue to react positively to that and not rudely be like, I can't believe it took you a month to figure out what I was saying, then I feel like eventually like over time it will get better and better each time. So like if anyone is out there that you're like, I'm not going to try to have the conversation because we've tried to do it before and the person never hears me and never understands, like keep hope alive, because change is possible even if it's really slow. Getting ready to wrap up here. So what I'm watching right now, if anyone's looking for new shows, movies, whatever, I'm watching the final season of The Boys, which I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I think I checked out of The Boys in like midway through season 2. I love Eric Kripke. I love the cast. I think everybody is fantastic. I think it's a great show. It's honestly just too gross for me. Like they just took the vulgarity and like ran so hard with it that I'm like, was this necessary? If Jensen Ackles had not joined the cast, I probably would have quit, and I really was only watching this season for the Supernatural reunion, which was awesome. But because this is the last season, I'm going to just see it through. I'm also still suffering through Grey's Anatomy, which I also really wish would end. But I am going to watch that show until it ends, even though not loving it. But in terms of things that I am actually loving, I'm rewatching Younger because that's one of my favorite shows, start to finish. Actually, I feel like the last season might be bad, but I'll let you know if I get through it again. But I'm really enjoying that rewatch. I'm rewatching most of my Disney favorites. So I went through Hannah Montana, which was not fun as an adult. I think that's like specifically for kids. Wizards of Waverly Place I rewatched as an adult and loved it almost more than I loved it as a kid. So I think that one still resonates for all ages. And I have just restarted Kim Possible and That's So Raven. So I'm living my best life with those rewatches. And then movies. I just saw the Billie Eilish concert movie earlier this week. That was really fun. I saw The Sheep Detectives last week, which I actually really enjoyed. My biggest qualm with The Sheep Detectives is like they didn't go full adult cozy mystery or kids movie. It leans more adult in my opinion. I don't have children. I was at the children's screening. There were a lot of children at this movie and I didn't ask any of them what they thought of it. But while there are talking sheep, it's not animated and they are like solving an actual murder mystery, which I don't think that children would be able to follow along and try to solve with them. And there's no like slapstick comedy that you would expect in like something that was more for kids. So, but it also felt a little too dumbed down and like didn't go far enough and hard enough to really be for adults. So I think they I'm not really sure what the goal was to be able to say if they hit it or not, but I did enjoy the film. I think it's very well done. It's a fun story. It's cute. Like it gave me warm feels. So like I would actually recommend people checking it out. And then I also really enjoyed Michael. It is really, really long. Like I think it was close to like 2.5 hours, if not longer than that. And it's only part one. There wasn't any new information. So like I saw the Jackson 5 movie a million times growing up because my mother was obsessed with Michael Jackson. So if you've seen that movie and you're wanting like more specific information about Michael or his life, I don't think you'll get it. But if you're a fan and you just want to like relive his heyday and like the transition from the Jackson 5 into becoming a solo artist, like all of that's there. The concert scenes are amazing. And like Jafar is just amazing. Like one of the best biopic depictions I have seen. And that's all I got for you today. Okay, bye.
I'm not here to sugarcoat, life's already a bumpy road. Too much shelter causes pain, let's just be real honest. Things are gonna knock you down, avoidance will not help you out. Let's talk it through, here me and you, let's keep it real honest.